Welcome back. Looking at the markets and holding out by a solid 1%. You've got names like Tata Motors, DVR, BPCL, HPCL, as well as Piramal Enterprises and RIL having a pretty solid session, with the broader markets too quite upbeat. But let's connect with a corporate voice then to understand whether or not the lull in demand for the plywood sector is here to stay. Are we going to see pre-COVID levels soon, and what are they making of the government measures? Keshav Bhajanka, who is the ED at CenturyPly, now joins in on the show. Keshav, good morning. Let's talk about the industry as a whole, which has faced quite a bit of a lull owing to the COVID lockdown. We've seen now quite a few restrictions coming in. What's the outlook on the demand, and when will we see those pre-COVID levels returning?
So you see, I think demand recovery has been far better than what we had expected back in end of March or in April. Month on month, our demand has kept on improving. And I believe that by Q3, we should practically be at 90% plus of last year. And Q4, we should be the same as last year, or considering the fact that last year we only had 2.5 months, be in excess of last year.
Okay, so certainly seeing quite a bit of a rebound. And what about the non-plywood business? That too, over the past few months, has been improving quite steadily. It's led by the laminate segment, MDF segment. Is that going to be a key focus area now for the company? What kind of growth can we see from non-plywood?
All our product categories, wherever we are, whether it is plywood, whether it is laminates, whether it is MDF or particle board, we try to gain a market leadership position in each of these categories. So as you have witnessed in MDF, the growth has been very good, but considering the fact that the base was negligible, say 3 years ago, we didn't have MDF. Going forward, these are definitely going to be growth categories. And we believe that in all of these categories, there's substantial room for growth. So plywood, laminates, perhaps MDF could grow at a slightly higher pace than the rest, considering the fact that it has a very low base in India to begin with. But we believe that all of these categories are going to be growth categories going forward.
Sure. Keshav, while ply demand has been weak on the back of slower real estate projects, and of course now COVID as well, do you really think this lackluster demand in the plywood segment is here to stay? Or do you think soon we're going to see some revival coming?
Being a businessman, I'm optimistic by definition. But having said that, India's plywood demand, India's total consumption of plywood, India's total manufacture of plywood is less than 10% that of China. Now, if you look at the population of both countries, we're almost neck and neck. So I believe that in the short term, there is a slight bit of demand pressure. There's a slight bit of pressure on consumption. But going forward, medium to long term, there's going to be great growth in all the categories, whether it be plywood, MDF, laminates. Each of these categories is going to give us sustained growth going forward. For instance, China has grown by about 5 times in terms of plywood in the past 15 years. So I see no reason as to why India is not going to have a similar growth rate.
Okay. On that point, Keshav, the government is actively considering imposing tighter restrictions on imports of several items, and that includes furniture as well. Now with the clampdown coming in China specifically, how do you see this play out really for the industry and CenturyPly in particular? And also, what sort of volumes then can we expect for the MDF segment in particular going forward?
You see, I think it is a great step. India is one of the world's largest importers of furniture. And we have all the raw materials to make our own furniture. Our artisans, our carpenters, contractors, our raw materials, everything is in place. So I think this initiative by the government is fantastic. Now it depends on how quickly it can be executed. And if Atmanirbhar with regards to furniture, if Make in India with regards to the furniture category does take up pace, for manufacturers like us, it is going to be a game changer. I think it is going to open a far higher growth, a far higher possibility for growth than what was the case earlier. Definitely, MDF and particle board are going to benefit more because ready-made furniture utilizes more of MDF and particle board. But other categories such as plywood and laminate are also going to be benefiting because a lot of the furniture that is imported uses plywood and laminates as well. So I think this Make in India or this Atmanirbhar campaign with regards to furniture, if it picks up steam, it is going to be very, very beneficial to our category.
Could you throw some light on the kind of volume projection that you may have for the MDF segment in particular?
Well, MDF, we have grown at the first year, like I said, we were a non-entity, so the growth was exponential. But yes, we have grown at 20% plus. And I think going forward in the MDF category, 20 to 25% growth for the next, say, 5 to 10 years should be easily achievable.
Okay, and what about the export market? How are you seeing demand over there? Are there more inquiries now? With global players looking at alternatives to China, do you see the export market recovering faster?
There is only one product category where we were exporting, which is laminates. Now, with regards to laminates, Southeast Asia was our biggest market, and there was actually a very strong demand throughout. It wasn't the case like with India, the demand, contracted and then started picking up. In export markets such as in Singapore, in Thailand, in Malaysia, Indonesia, the demand was quite steady. So demand did not fall by that great an extent. And today we are seeing greater inquiries. So I think that business is has been more consistent, and it is going to remain a growth business, but with higher consistency, maybe in the short term.
All right. Thanks very much for sharing with us the outlook on your business and how things are shaping up at CenturyPly.